Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Asad Mohammed from the University of Polytechnics in the north part of Iraq, which is known as Kurdistan. Uh, my presentation, before the presentation actually, I wanted to, clarify that I wanted to be part of this great conference and to be present there today with you. But unfortunately, because of the severe situation in Iraq, I wasn't able to get the visa and then travel there. Before understanding the newsmaking process and moral panics, I would like to give you a short introduction of moral panic. Basically, it was introduced by Stanley Cohen back in the 1970s, which was, very new at that time. Moral panic is a moment when social and political anxieties, usually fears about rapid change in the society, grow too intense to find its release through argument or discussion, and gradually becomes a moral panic. Of course, when it turns to a hunt for scapegoats. Some, or let's say many scholars, believe that moral panic is a cultural eruptions. What we mean by cultural eruption, it means it is actually related to cultural elements of the society. However, it is not true. It is what we call it, political. Most of the time, it is political because they're always, most of the scholars enlist political actors like journalists, like pundits, religious figures, clergymen, and intellectuals, police themselves, because they are the ones who are standing behind the scenes of this moral panic. And it is also important to understand that, this is especially true when it comes to moral panics around sexuality and gender, which will later be explained. Because one of the great characteristics of news, something to be published in the field of media, is actually unpopularity. Unpopularity is, when something is not common, not popular among the individuals of the society. This means that crime, according to this rule, constitutes a large part of the prime time shows at night. Because many people watch TV at night, and then crime becomes a large part of it, simply because crimes are unpopular among the individual of the society. And it is true that people usually want to, often, let's say, want to watch and hear something that's new to them. And according to Fisherman, the influx of crime waves induces public outrage, which eventually brings about vagaries in policy, from sentencing measures to society's levels of fear. It is also important to understand the fact that this results in what we should what should be regarded as newsworthiness. The news anchors are very clever. They try to capture the scenes, and they choose the best. What we mean the best, and what is the best? A great deal of more important news is neglected by the news anchors just for the sake of a symbolizing event. What we mean by symbolizing event? A symbolizing event is, as we said, like a crime, which is unpopular, or other parts of news which are unpopular among the individuals of the society. And then a symbolizing event is much more important for the news agencies than a piece of news that that less likely seem to draw the public attention. It is also important to understand the social elements in the construction of moral panics. The media function as a secondary definer. What we mean by secondary definer, the second one, because they do not publish the news live. Rather, they actually get the news from the primary definers, and they receive their news and information from the primary definers of social reality, which are usually authoritative institutions. This is, of course, according to Killenberg. For example, something really strange happened in Iraq. The panics over the emos. Back in in 2010 and 11, many emos were killed in Iraq, and this became a panic around a certain group of people in the society, the young people, who wanted to be emos. This was happened just because of a wrong report from the anchors. Basically two emos were interviewed by a news agency. In the news, in a big headline, it was written, the emos are sucking each other's blood. This was a shock to the society, a shock to the society which is 99% Muslim. And the Muslim society does not accept such things because it is a threat to the society. It is a Western. It is not, a Muslim phenomenon, and that's why the mass media then magnified the news, and then it became a panic around the emos. Actually, it is very sad to remind you that most of the emos were stoned to death, and later it became clear that it was actually triggered by the clergyman, as I mentioned in the first part of the of my seminar. The existing threat, as I said, is going to be magnified. When it is magnified, then the social order eventually results in the diffusion of the threat across the society. The news becomes very popular, and as I said, when something is popular, then the right-thinking people must find a way to solve this problem. And public anxiety is often amplified by the media's role in making the threat symbolize and crystallize a wider threat. A good example can be a pedophilia. For example, my city, 2 million people live in my city. And out of 2 million people, it is not strange, it is not a shock to find one person who is a pedophile. It is not a shock because everywhere you can find people who are against the social norms, or they want to rebel. But if the news agencies hear this, then the news is going to be magnified. And this, as the Kurdish people say, they make a fly a big cow. Furthermore, social barricades and the right-thinking people, which are known as entrepreneurs, play a very important role in stirring up the public. When someone or something is seen as a threat to the society and the social norms or values, then the news media outlets try to symbolize, or let's say sensationalize the event. But what we mean by sensationalize, it means through a picture, or let's say they try to visualize it. And then the news becomes very popular in the society, and everybody knows about it. And especially we have social websites like Facebook, like Twitter. It just needs a second to go viral in the society. Then they demand public intervention to put an end to this deviant behavior, which is seen as a threat to the society, to the society's important values. Sometimes moral panics are generated by the media through granting expert status, and this is very sad. Expert status to a particular group, such as advocacy or lobby groups, without considering their vested interests in in commenting on the existing issue. And that was actually, we can again pick up an example. About 5 years ago, here in my city, there were, the massage places were very popular. And then many people used to go there, but the clergymen sensationalize it, the place, by saying that people go there just because they're for dirty stuff like sexual, etc., things. And then after just 5 days, it became a very huge headline in the newspapers saying people have sex in the massage places. It took only 2 days. Many people burned those places, and now you cannot find any massage places here because this was like a moral panic around those places. And sometimes moral panics are generated by the media through granting expert status to a particular group of people, such as advocacy groups or lobby groups or clergymen, let's say, and without considering their vested interest is to comment on on existing issue. It is in this point, as Stanley Cohen says, the mass media allow for allow such groups to magnify the threat and to be popular in the society. In conclusion, I would like to remind you that we are living in a society which is fraught with fear, especially because of the presence of the news media outlets, and they actually try to make our sense of risk constantly enlarge. Moral panics reflect social anxieties and concerns over certain actions that are seen as a threat to the social norms and the important parts of our society. These concerns are sensationalized and symbolized, in terms of being a real threat to social values and norms. Significantly, in the heart of this process, the news agencies play an important role. Especially in an opportunistic manner, take advantage of moral entrepreneurs and claim makers who lay considerable emphasis on these concerns. They then reframe the issue, and through sensationalizing and symbolizing the event that they favor, which eventually elevate the threat to the stage of moral panics. Thank you very much. It was a great honor to be part of this great conference, and I once again welcome all of you to this great conference. Thank you very much.